It was a good lead in though. Like it was.
We also have Josiah here. Welcome, Josiah.
What's up, Josiah?
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. That was a great intro. I loved it. Yeah, so this is what what I'm gonna walk through building today. It's gonna be using Rive for the animations and Slater for really this functionality that happens. So, quick demo of what it does. And this is a version of the Slater sign up form. That was the inspiration. I thought might be fun to add an animation to it. So when you hover over the login area, you're going to get the Slater hand signal. Forgot your password. Eduardo's going to think about the password, and then as you start to type, you get these little kicks that happen off to the side. That might be my favorite
That's
animation.
awesome.
And then as soon as the JavaScript level field is not blank, and I just like to type in dummy, the shades are gonna pop down, and then when you hover the submit button, he's gonna start surfing. And these are all kind of like independent of each other, so I could actually leave that blank and hover, and he's gonna surf without the sunglasses, right? So these are each kind of happening on their own, and that's all based on the state machine in Rive. So I'll be diving into that to talk a little bit about how I got that set up. First, I wanted to start though with just like figuring this out. So I started with a sketch to think about what are the 5 different kind of interactions I want to have, and then I made this little reference for myself for what IDs I was using for the elements in the Webflow project, because I find it's really helpful to use those in the prompts with Slater to get them just right. And as I was putting them here, I realized I think I use at least 3 different like conventions for these. So it's a little messy, but I think that's one of the great things is you can kind of make a mess of things, and Slater's going to help you figure it out. So this is the sketch of just like reminding myself like which animation do I want to happen for which kind of action. So I knew I wanted a little speech bubble to, over the login link, the forgot password speech bubble, the sunglasses when the JS level is not blank, the surfing for the submit, and the little kickouts for the any typing in either of the fields. So this is sort of how it began. I also have in this Figma file some just other like reference. I looked up some surfing illustrations. I really liked this one that I found. Took some inspiration from that. Did a couple just like rough versions, and then started to lean in towards the artwork here, which I ended up copying and pasting into Rive to get the animation set up. So that's the beginning of the process. At any point, if anybody has questions, feel free to stop me. I'll just keep kind of walking through stuff. But that's really just the beginning of it. I think probably the really interesting stuff is in Rive. So I'll get started with that part of it as well.
I like your doodles.
Yeah,
Thanks. Yeah.
same man. And your naming convention like resonates because I do the same thing. I'll have camel case, snake case,
Yeah.
underscore, like
Random
whatever,
dances.
mix
Yeah.
and match. But I just had to also say that the fact that these things are independently targeted, so like the glasses thing when it
Oh yeah.
takes, that's incredible, man.
Yes. Yeah, that's like the really powerful thing about Rive, and that's why I like can't stop using this program because it's just so incredible. And that's hopefully I'm gonna try to like explain the state machine that because that's what really makes it work. So we'll see. Hopefully it makes sense. And like I said, stop me at any point. I remember getting started with Rive and just being totally overwhelmed by this portion specifically, the state machine. But I'll try to walk through setting it up. So here we have, if I just, kind of come into, this is the file. Um, all the parts are over here on the left-hand side. This is all vector art. Um, I'm also using a nested artboard over here. Which we'll see how much time we have if I talk about that very much. But essentially, you set up all your art on your artboard, and then when you switch over to animate mode, you can create multiple timelines and then string them together with the state machine, and that's where all the logic happens. So I'll just hit play here, and you'll see this is going to work just like the form. But in this case, I'm going to use these little input triggers over here to make them work. So for typing, whenever I click this trigger, you can actually see here it's switching between these two timelines. So there's one for the right foot and one for the left foot. So every time I click there, it's going to flip back and forth to make those work. For the login, that's also a trigger that's going to, actually that's on this layer. So that's going to you can kind of see how it cycles through this set of timelines. These are all timelines. And then same thing for the password. It's going to cycle through. And then for the JavaScript level, that one's a Boolean, so it's a check yes or no. So when you check it, sunglasses go down. You uncheck it, they go back up. And then surfing is also a Boolean, so that's going to go, there's a sort of like an in animation and then a loop that will continue playing. And then when you uncheck it, it's going to go to the surfing out, so it's going to kind of reset back there. So yeah, that's how it is. So that's why I wanted to make that drawing that I showed at the beginning, because I knew like I had these 5 things, and I wanted to think some of these are triggers, some of them are Booleans. There's also a number input type, which you can do some really fun stuff with as well. But right now, I'm just using Booleans and triggers to get this all functioning. So maybe a pause for just a moment. Any questions on kind of what I'm showing here so far?
Not so much a question, but a comment. Like just seeing you walking through how you've got these set up and seeing kind of the node editor and knowing that there's like nested timelines within each. That's like, I don't know, that just clicked for me in a way that it hasn't yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super cool. I love. I'd never really worked with node-based stuff until I started messing with Blender, but I really like it as a way for organization. So it's a very good explanation.
Yeah, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I thought that was actually very similar for me. I think Blender was my first introduction to this like node-based kind of system. But this, as you can see, is much simpler than what Blender does. But it still lets you use this logic to drive things. What I'm going to try to do is actually recreate this state machine and set up each of these pieces because, like I said, this is once I have these inputs triggering things the way that I want to within the Rive animation, then I'm going to use the Slater to create the JavaScript code that's going to fire these for me when certain things happen on the page, or set the Booleans on and off. So it's kind of important to understand how these are set up and what they do in order to get it to work the way that you want to. So I'll try to do that. And maybe actually before I do that, what's kind of interesting I think to note is what's on each of these timelines. So a lot of these you'll see if I play this is the surfing loop. So there's a lot of things looping here. There's the board motion, the wave motion. There's this nested artboard with the kind of spray happening. The motion of the character is all happening here. And actually, one thing that's kind of interesting to turn on. I'm using bones to manipulate the shapes in a lot of these cases. So you can bind the vertices of your artwork to bones, and then actually you can have the bones kind of like react to each other in interesting ways. So I have this like the sort of parallax of the character is happening because this bone is like the main bone, and then I have this other one back here if I can grab it. It's moving. Anyway, that one is sort of like it's moving opposite of the main bone so that it gives sort of a 3D kind of a look. And then let me actually do this real quick with the sunglasses too. You can kind of see I put bones up at the top and down here. So that's kind of like anchoring parts. So I can move something that moves the bones but keeps parts of the artwork anchored, things like that. But like I said, in the state machine, it's all just like these timelines kind of strung together.
I just had a super quick question. The depth simulation, are you working with two layers there? So you have like one that's,
Yeah.
and so it's just you're connecting those bones to make that layer motion fluid between the two, even though it's just a gap between them.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. It's just two. Yeah, and you can if I break it.
Oh yeah. No. Okay, cool.
Happening. Um,
That's actually really cool by itself.
Yeah, right. I know. It's like, oh, that's kind of fun stuff. But yeah, so what I have is this bone back here has this constraint. Oh, wait, maybe did I do that right? Oh, this one has, this is so if I have this bone rotating, this one will rotate the same way. It's like mirrors the rotation.
Wow.
And I have the same thing, I think, set up with these two ones. So if I have the front leg kick out here, the back one's going to do it as well. Somewhere in here, I forget where exactly I set up this kind of like parallax. Yeah, I don't remember actually. It's in there somewhere. But,
No, it's super cool. That's really really clever.
yeah. And this one maybe one of the other things that's interesting is well, actually, I'll go through these timelines. I think it's interesting to see like what the timelines have, and then you can think like it makes sense like how they all fit together in the state machine itself. So that was a surfing loop on that one, and then surf in and out. I'm using a single timeline here, and in the state machine you can actually reverse it. So that just plays through that way, and then I also have it like play backwards basically in the state machine too, which is kind of nice. And one of the things with Rive files is they're super lightweight. One of the things that adds weight to the files is these keys, putting keyframes on the timelines. And so anytime you can do something to reuse keys that you already have, you're going to save yourself a little bit of file size. So that's just one of the things I've kind of learned over time working with these files. For the sunglasses down, you can see it's just like two properties keyed here. Oh, and actually, yeah, this is kind of an interesting one. This is not really a timeline. It's, it is a timeline, but I'm really only keying one thing at the beginning here, because with the state machine, you can transition between two animation states. So sunglasses down is actually just keying the position of the sunglasses and this sort of shine shape here, which is masked within the lenses. And then sunglasses up has the shape at the other side, and the sunglasses are up here. So in the state machine, when I switch between the two, you can see that kind of quick flash that happens there. So what's happening is that it's just like automatically transitioning between those two states. So it's like setting the beginning keyframe and the ending keyframe, but they're in two separate timelines. Which again is just like amazing.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's a really nice touch too. Like just that detail flash is really really nice.
Yeah, thanks. Let's see. For the login bubble, I have to remember what a lot of this stuff is. Oh yeah, this is another one where I set this animation up so that it would play forward and then play backwards. So it kind of looks like a full loop, but this actually is another way in which it'd save some keys because I don't have to re-key, it going back down to 0 scale, and I can just have a single timeline and then play it in forwards and reverse in the state machine. So I think I do the same thing with the password bubble. So it looks kind of like half of the animation because it is going to replay backwards at the end. Some of them it's helpful to have an idle state where you kind of just like reset things with a certain key. So you can have the state machine kind of run it through a state where it resets things for you, and then kind of play your next animation from there. The type, these are the kicks, and you can see actually at the very first key is just it kicked all the way out. and then it just plays the little trim paths animation that looks kind of like a little splash coming off the foot there. And it starts at that and then goes back down to that one. So that's because when it transitions into that, that make sure it kicks out right away when you're typing. And then same thing on the left side. That's the same exact kind of one. The blinks right now are hidden by the sunglasses. Let me see if I can turn that off quickly. Yeah, so here, this is just, I have bones attached to those vertices in the shape. So it's just scaling it so that you can have the blinks happening. Turn my sunglasses back on or it'll ruin something. And then the rocking motion, that's just the sort of idle kind of state that happens there. So what I'm going to try to do is recreate this state machine using those timelines. So I'll make a new state machine here. And one of the things I want to do is set up these inputs. So I'm going to start with a trigger. And I think one of my first ones was the login trigger. So I will do that. I realized I spelled login a couple different ways in this process too. Is it 1G or 2? Anybody know? 1? Okay. Good.
Unless you're talking about Kenny Loggins. And then it's 2,
Yes.
you know, the king.
Or if you're going to go do some login. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Or you have to like a logger.
Yes. Oh, man. Good. Okay. Well, then now I got it right here. So one of the things, and then, yeah, you kind of saw on the other state machine, which I probably will have to refer to just so I don't take too long working on this, but you have the layers, so you can have multiple things happening at the same time. So if I remember correctly, the first one was the rocking motion. So I'm just going to drag it into this area and then connect it from the entry. And in this one, on these transitions, you can set conditions, which we're going to do on some of the other things, but on this one, we don't need it to happen. We just want it to go straight into the rocking motion. So you can see when I play the state machine, that's what's going to happen. So I like to name them too so I can remember what's happening. Rocking. And then I think if I want to go to the login one next, I'm going to look back at my login. There we go. Here, I can fix it now. Oh, wait, that's a complicated one. Let me do blinks next. That's easy. All right, second layer will be blinks. And you can see there's a little symbol here that indicates this is a looping timeline too. And then, yeah, you can kind of see the bone scaling. Right now, the sunglasses are down, so we'll be able to see those better once we have something else. Putting the sunglasses up. All right, let me remember what I did. Typing. Okay. Good. Now on this one, we're going to start to get some of the conditions in here. And let me actually remove this. If I can keep my inputs in the same order, that will help later in the process. Typing. All right, so on this one, got right and left. And I think what I want to choose one to start with. And then I'm going to have these switch back and forth between each other. So I don't want it to, if I play this now, it's going to kick right away as soon as the animation starts, which I don't want, right? I want it to wait until this gets triggered. So on this transition, I'm going to add a condition, which is typing. And because this is just a trigger type, there's no other conditions to set to it. So let's see, that should work. Yep, there we go. So now it's only going to go to that when we hit that trigger. And I'm gonna use the same trigger to have it go back and forth between these two then once it's played. So if I set this same trigger, I'm just going to restart it here. So now if I hit this repeatedly, yeah, you can see it's just going to like jump back and forth between the two, which is awesome.
Super quick question. You may have just said this, that my dog just started barking, but so is these are just Booleans basically?
This one is a trigger type. So it just fires. That's all it does.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool.
You can set a Boolean. We will set a Boolean on some of these, and that is
Cool.
more going to be like a check, like it's either true or false, right?
Gotcha.
But the trigger is just like, yeah, it's like a moment that like tells it to do something.
And just by calling it typing, it knows exactly what it's looking for.
No, that's so I know what what I'm
Gotcha.
looking for.
Cool.
You
I'm
can
just
name
curious.
you can name the inputs, and then yeah. So here, right, it's the only input that I have created right now. But once I create more, there will be more options here.
Gotcha.
But so right here, I'm choosing this input as the condition to switch between those two.
Cool. Gotcha.
Does that make
Thank
sense?
you. Yes, it does. I appreciate it.
Good. Yeah. Like I said, I know this is like I was totally lost in all this when I got started. So let's see. All right, let's go to login one. Here we go. This is a more complex one. So I think on this one I need my login and my password triggers set up. Okay. So I'm going to create another trigger called login and another one for password. Inconsistent caps, doesn't matter. I'm going to call this speech bubbles. So on this one, I have this kind of like idle, this is like a default state. So, and I think what I'm doing here is, yeah, I'm scaling down both of the groups for the speech bubbles down to 0%. So they're basically invisible. So that just like resets it so that whenever I'm not playing one of those animations, they're going to be totally hidden. So I'll grab that one, which was speech bubble idle. And that's going to be sort of the default state. So I want it to go into that one first. And then this is where I had, yeah, two versions of each animation, but I'm playing one forward and one backwards. So I'll get that set up here. So what I want for the login bubble is I'm going to put it here, and then I'm going to drag a second one on right away too. And so from speech bubble idle, I'm going to have it go to the login bubble when the login trigger is fired. And then I'm going to, and this one is playing at 1x speed. For the second one, I'm going to just put it at -1. So that's going to make it play backwards. And we'll have it play through this timeline, and then I want to make sure it plays that entire timeline before it goes to the next one. So I'm going to put the exit time at 100%. That'll make sure it plays the whole thing and then goes to this one. And then from here, I just want it to go back to that idle state. And I also want it to play 100% of that animation. So I'm going to set that to 100% as well. And then that should work. So now if I hit login, you can kind of see how it plays through that one, and then it plays through that one, and then it goes back. And that's the forwards and backwards of those two timelines. So I'm going to do the same thing for the login, not the login, the password one too.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I know, this is like, feels like magic.
It really looks like magic.
Yeah. I know, I can't believe, like, and just like, so, and you know, you can see, right, like the other things, oops, right, if you don't set the logic up right, it freaks out. But like we still have the rocking happening, and the blinks are behind the sunglasses, but these two layers are still happening, and then the kicks are still happening. So that's one of the just like amazing things. You can have all these things happening simultaneously. Yeah, it's just incredible. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to set this one to password. I want this to play 100% before it transitions, and then 100% here. And I need to make sure I switch that to -1 for the speed. And actually, we could see what it looks like if I don't set it. I think it'll just like, yeah, it pops up twice. So that's why I want to make sure that one's -1 for the speed. And then pop up, and then yeah, play backwards and go back down. Cool. So even though like that looks kind of complicated, I think once you kind of start to like jump into it and figure out like what each step does, it's not that complicated.
I can see how the planning you did though helps
Yes.
make it clear. You have your beginning with the end in mind.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Do you think is this just a no-code tool for JavaScript, or what do you think the underlying technology is that is supporting all of it?
I know it's built on Flutter, and I think there's a lot of the technical stuff I don't totally understand. They're really emphasizing that they're creating their own renderer right now, which I think is going to enable a lot of features that might feel like they're missing from an animation program. Um, but even so, it's currently super powerful. But I know they're going to add features like text and the ability to do blurs and shadows and things like that. But yeah, I don't know. I know they get compared to Lottie quite a lot, and I think there's a common request to be able to export your animations as Lotties, and I think one of the responses I've seen is just like it's an entirely different format, and it's so I don't know what that means exactly, but I know they've said it's not worthwhile for them to develop that.
Right. But you
Yeah, that's
can
interesting.
export
File
these
sizes.
and use them, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You can then you can export a .riv file, and then yeah, hook it up with a JavaScript code to get it
Right.
to work.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So who needs Lottie?
Yeah. That's kind of what I think, but I also totally understand the place for Lottie too, right? I think it's more familiar. I think in many ways, it's simple because it's just a single timeline. Takes a little while to get used to this, but I think once you do, it's just the fact that it does interaction like this is already kind of a game changer. But like the bones and the constraints and yeah, this whole state machine thing is just it's incredible.
Yeah, Lotties get kind of cumbersome too. Like I don't know. The thing about Rive that, and again, I'm barely scratching the surface of it, but the file size thing was what really caught my eye. But
Yeah.
watching you work through this, I came up with Flash. Like,
Yeah.
I'm dating myself a little
Same.
bit, but
Yeah.
and this feels like a lot of the best stuff that Flash was really good at,
Yeah.
which I've missed.
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know one of the things I don't have built in right now is any sound editing, but I found ways to sync it with sound at runtime with JavaScript code, which is just another kind of incredible thing you can do. So yeah, anything you can do with JavaScript, it feels like you can use that to drive a Rive animation or react to I don't know. It's
It
I
sounds like
still
you
feel
might have
like
fixed the sound thing for him.
the what? Oh yeah,
Like kind of solved it. Like,
it's not straightforward. Like it definitely takes some some doing, but it's doable. So yeah,
it's very cool.
yeah.
So how did you come across Rive, and what was the moment for you where you adopted it?
Corey Runnels, who most people know as Flowman, lives in the Milwaukee area as well, which is where I am. And we met up for coffee once, and he mentioned you should look into this thing. And that was the first I'd ever heard of it. And I looked into it, and I could not understand it for a long time. And I just kept like, I can tell this is something incredible, but I can't figure out what to do with it. Which I think might be part of the hang up for a lot of Webflowers is like you can see that it's a animation tool, but it's a little bit unclear how to actually put it into a Webflow project. I realized there was something there that could be done. And I didn't know any JavaScript when I started doing that. That was in November, December. And so it felt really like pretty intimidating and overwhelming at that point.
You mean like last November, December?
Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And so, it just feels like, but this is what made me want to learn it though. It's like, oh, okay, great. Like, having like ideas and then like projects that I can like figure out how to make animations work. It's pretty incredible.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I definitely owe it to Flowman for the for the introduction to Rive. Um, nice. I think I can get this finish getting this hooked up, and then get jump over into Slater because I that's kind of what we're here for. But because I think it's important to understand like how the logic works here because Slater is going to be helping to access these triggers or these inputs. These are called inputs. And so, yeah, that'll be just interesting to see. So I'm going to quickly, I don't remember what I call this one. I'll just call it sunglasses. This one will be for when the JS level field is not empty, is when we're going to set that up. So I wanted to start with the sunglasses. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you don't set conditions, it kind of jumps, which is kind of
It's like the
terrifying.
sunglasses flick kind of thing, like the raised eyebrows movement, you know.
Yes. Okay, when sunglasses is true, I want it to transition to the down stage, and then when it's false. So this is one thing. With a Boolean, you can choose the true or false condition here. False. So this should work now. So it's going to start with them up. And if I check that box, yeah, so you can see that's going to flash instantly. The other thing you can do is set the duration of the transition. So I'm selecting both here, and I find that 200 milliseconds tends to look nice. It's like quick, but you can still see it happening. So, and that's why I think, yeah, on these ones, if you remember, like this is just basically a single keyframe. So that's where it's just transitioning between the keyframes in these two timelines, which is just, yeah, awesome to be able to do. And then the last thing we want to set up is the surfing. I think it's spelled right. Surfing. Okay. And I'm going to reference this one. Huh. What did I do? I don't remember. Oh, okay. All right. I think I did. I used a little bit of a shortcut on some of these, but I'm going to try to set that up the same way and explain why. So one of the things you can do, because you can set the speed on these, you can also set it to 0, which means it doesn't play at all, which can be helpful if you have, like if your first keyframes in the timeline are setting all the properties at something, because a property won't change unless a keyframe tells it to. So in this one, it's like the trim paths for the waves. I think I have them set like all the way back to 0 at the beginning of this. Yeah, so it's going to basically set everything at this stage here. So there's no waves in sight. And then later we're going to have it play through and then jump to the looping one after that. Do that. I have set one at 0.
Is each one of the wave kind of segments, are those repeating at all an offset, or are those each individual instances?
These lines?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are each a path.
Cool.
With a really thick stroke, and then let's see if I can select one.
The lighting is impressive.
Yeah, you can add one thing. This is another amazing thing about this. Where are they? Let me find them here. I think they're these. Yeah, you can set. Oh, I just have one. It's got a radial gradient for its fill type. So, yeah, so that part doesn't show up until it gets there, and then when it does the loop, it kind of like goes in and out of that white area. But you can also add multiple strokes to things, which is awesome. Like there's just so many cool things you can do. Yeah, I could spend a lot more time talking about all this stuff.
Keep going, man. I'm into it.
Okay, now I'm trying to remember. So what I did here is I added a blank animation state. I don't actually remember why, but let me see if I can figure it out. So I have it go here to reset, and then, okay. Because I want it to go from entry. I want it to go just quickly at 0 speed, whip through this one. So I think if I hit play, let me do that again. Yeah, so it looks like it jumps right to this one, but it's going through this one first and then pausing here because it hasn't met the next condition. And so I have it play through this timeline in order to basically reset all the keys that are there. And then it waits here until it does its loop, and then it'll come back to here. So that's what I'm going to set up here as well. Which that should be fine. And then surf in out, I want to go here. I'm going to put 2 of those in, and then the loop here. So I'm going to have it go from this blank animation state. This is nothing. This is just like an empty state. I need a Boolean for this. Surf. So when surf is true, I want it to go play through the surf in out timeline, and then from there I want it to transition into the loop until it's ready. But I want it to play the full in out timeline. So I'm going to set that exit time to 100%. And I think I can actually just play that and it'll, yep. So it's gonna stop there. So now there's no way to turn it off because we haven't told it what else to do. But then when I uncheck that, I want it, so when surf is false, I want it to come to this one, and this one's gonna play backwards, right? So I'm gonna set that at -1, and then it's gonna come back to this state and wait. And I want that to play 100% as well. 100%. So this should work now. So there it goes. It jumps into and I should be able to do, sunglasses as well. And then when I hit it again, it's going to jump back to the state, and then it's going to wait here for the next input. So that's it. That's the state machine. I'm pretty sure that's the entire state machine for this one. So I mean, 2 of these layers are just like a continuous animation that's happening. One is just the rocking motion. One is just the blinks. The kicks is one layer. We have 2 different triggers happening within this speech bubbles layer. Sunglasses is just up and down, and then the surfing one. So, and like each of these is controlling different properties and different objects within the timeline. So that's why it can mix together so well. But now I'm going to stop using Rive, and I'm going to switch it over to Slater and get this working. And here what I'm going to do is, it's called State Machine 2. I'm going to export this. So I'm going to download it for runtime. And I already have this saved, so I'll give it a 2 at the end. Okay, so I found that, and actually, I may need to reference this. So I'm going to bring this back up. I'm using a service called UploadCare, which to host the Rive file, which tends to work pretty well. So this one's 18 kilobytes.
Jeez.
Which is pretty good.
It's tiny.
All that stuff, all that interactivity is 18 kilobytes. So yeah, that's what I love about this is it's so performant. It's incredible. So what I'm going to do, I just set up the new feature where you can have it work for your entire page. I forgot what it's called, but it's a really helpful feature.
Single script.
Single script, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And then I have, this is my practice one that I did the other day, and I just made a copy of it for this live one. So I'm going to create this and try to redo it. So I think what I started off with was, I'm going to see if I can get my Figma thing in view so I can write these IDs in. So I'm going to say, I want to, let's see, I want to have a Rive animation react to, I'll fix the typos later, user actions on a form. Okay, and then I have when the link with ID login link. Oh my gosh, sorry. Link is hovered. Trigger animation. Actually, oh, you know what I found with this is console log. And I'm going to copy this because I'm going to kind of do the same thing here, but then one with forgot link. And then when the okay, the user is typing in the fields, the IDs, JS level, and email. Let's log it. What else do I need? Oh yeah, when the JS level field is not blank, it, and when hovers over the form submit button. Okay, let's see how that goes. Oh, I didn't fix the typo. It's okay. It should work anyway. And then these are, because I have this set up with, those are the IDs of these elements that I set up. Probably you already figured out. Okay.
That was fast.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I think this is great. Good. So I'm going to just, I think I've got everything I want looking here. So what I should be able to do now is save this and publish my page and see the console logs working.
How much did it? How much tinkering did you have to do to get that AI prompt right?
The first time I did it, I think I put in a more generically, like I want an animation to react to the user interactions, like typing and hovering over certain things, and I found that it gave me it like made up its own IDs for things, which I was able to actually work with and just replace the IDs. But then I realized, like, if I give it the IDs, it's going to write pretty much exactly what I need, which is super helpful. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we're playing around with a notebook view where you don't even have to like interact with the editor, and you'll just be able to like prompt the AI, and the AI is potentially good enough to just be able to say, okay, prompt, save that JavaScript that it prints out.
Yeah.
And,
Nice. So I'm realizing this is doing one thing I don't actually want it to do. So it's logging what I type into the fields, and I know on this one, let me see. Did I turn those? Oh yeah, it basically just says the user typed, which is what I want. I just need to know if it was typed or not what it typed. Hopefully that makes sense. So I think let's see if I can get it to update. That's great. For the fields, please update code so that If typing is happening, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but hopefully it will. And while that's happening, I found that it doesn't work quite so well with the Rive runtime code itself. So that I do end up copying and pasting from other places, but I'm still going to end up using all of this. I'm just going to place it inside the runtime code. So I will end up grabbing that from somewhere else.
Which would be a good addition to the library just on our end. Add the Rive runtime code if it's relatively kind of unchanging. It's like the Webflow push function.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Try this first before I put the Rive code in. Good typing. Okay, that might be. Yes, as a designer who pretends to be a developer, I don't know if this is going to work or not, so I'm going to try it. Find the right one. I want this one. Okay. Yes, okay, that's perfect. And it might not actually currently be logging whether or not this field is blank. I don't think it is, so I might have to set up a action for that. Although it looks like, oh, it should be blur. Wait, what's that?
Blur is the opposite of focus. It means once it's waiting for.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, that trips me up still too. I only know that because I've used that recently.
But I don't want it to be that. What is it up here?
So you might be able to just set it to focus on that field.
It could be input as well.
Yeah, it could be input.
Oh, okay.
So blur is when you're exiting it. Input is when you're typing.
Okay.
And focus is when it's selected.
Okay. Fascinating.
That's great. We could teach each other all this stuff, you know?
Yes.
I've learned more about Rive in this hour than in the last month.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this is all doing what I needed to get the Rive thing set up. So now I'm going to copy this code. So this is where it starts. This is the whole thing. So I'm going to paste it down here, and then I know I can delete all of this, which actually probably would just work on its own. But what I want to do is put these inside of the Rive fonts. And I want to leave these outside. So if I want to put them all in here. And then I need to pull Rive up again, because what I'm going to do is get these inputs by their number, basically. So the first one is 0, second one is 1, third one is 2. So I can reference them here. And actually, one thing I need to do is update the name of my state machine, because I created a second state machine. It's going to be state machine 2 here. And I need to put in the correct link to my file. So let me grab that again. Copy, paste that in. I guess I should note the other thing I have in my Webflow page is a canvas. And so I have it set up. I always just put the width and height to 100%, both with the HTML and the CSS, and then set the next element outside of it to the size that I want. I find that works really well. So I think that if I save this, the animation should show up. Yeah, there we go. Good. So now it's not hooked up to the triggers to happen. So it's just going to play the initial kind of loop because there's nothing telling it to transition to any of the next stages. So that's what I'm going to do next. So here, what is this one? Okay. First we've got the login link. And what I want to do is add a command here. So I believe it's inputs, and then I'm going to grab its number, and I'll double check this. And then the command is .fire. And let's see. So on my Rive, I just need to make sure. So typing one is first. So actually, the login link is going to be the second one, which is actually going to be 1. So login link covered. All right, let's just make sure that's working. There we go. So that triggered the animation that we set up for that. And then
So cool.
yeah, so now I'm going to do the same thing for the other ones to make sure that they all work the way that I want to. I know we're just getting to the end of the hour, so I think I can do this part pretty quickly and then just get it all set up and running. So I'm going to grab this because I know it's going to be, this fire command is going to be the same for some of these other ones here too. Especially, so yeah, forgot link. I'm going to add that one. And I just need to reference the input. That's going to be number 2. That's the password one. Forgot link. Yeah, that's the one. Okay. And then okay, this one, I'll do this again. This is the typing one. This one was 0, I remember. And then email field typing, I want this exact same thing because I want it to hit that trigger for both of these. So I'm going to save and refresh, just make sure those are all working so far. Oops, I hit save instead of refresh. Oh, yeah. So yeah, there it goes. Okay, good. And then get the kicks going in both fields. Perfect. So now when this one's not blank, I want to make sure the sunglasses come down. And that should be here. Yeah, okay, good. So is not equal to blank, I think is what that is saying. And then on this one, so this one's a boolean. So I want it, this is number 3. So I'm going to do, okay, inputs number 3. And instead of fire, I'm going to have it be value equals. So if it's not blank, I think that's when I want it to be true. Let me see if that's right. There we go. Okay, good. Sunglasses came down. And then if we clear that out, I want the sunglasses to go back up. And I think all I have to do is copy this and change that part of it. And then change the value. So I'm going to delete that exclamation and I'm going to set this to false. I think that's going to work. Refresh.
Oh man, that's so cool.
There we go. Yeah, I know. Like figuring this stuff out is just like, oh my god, what I can do anything.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so fun to watch too. Like,
Yes.
Yeah, nice work. It's awesome.
And then I got the last one here, and then this should all be totally set. I want this to be true when we hover, and then I think. Let's see. Actually, I don't know. This doesn't give me. I don't know. We'll see what happens here. I get a lot of that. Like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. Okay. Please. Okay, so it doesn't. It's not detecting the hover out. Yeah, everything else is still working. So I just need to figure out how to get it to detect the hover out. Oh, mouse over. Is it mouse out? Is that what it is? I remember. I could ask Slater actually. I'm gonna try it though because I think that might be right. Mouse out. Let's see. Might tell me if. Oh, there we go. Cool. All right. So then it's all working, and then I think what I might go back in and do is turn off the console logs for everything. But that's it. It's working.
That's amazing. Awesome stuff. Thank you for showing us all that too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, no,
I would love to learn Rive. I don't know that I have it in me at this stage, but I can see Wit spending the rest of the weekend nailing down an
I'm gonna be
animation.
chasing my kid around this weekend, but next week I'm gonna be in it because it actually made sense in a way that it hasn't today. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're working on anything you want help or consultation or anything, let me know for sure.
I definitely will, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm going to add this to the Riveflow site that I've been working on. This one is like all about how to get Rive up and running in Webflow projects. And what we just did is like the advanced method, but there's also the easy method, which is you grab an iframe embed code. And so actually, if you go to here and go share link, this will generate a link for you, this embed code iframe. And you can just drop that into an embed block in Webflow, and it'll work. And then all your listeners and things will set up. So this one here is an iframe embed. So I'm trying to make sure Webflow users know how to use this amazing tool because it's incredible. And like I said, it's just performant and lightweight and interactive. So really cool. But yeah, that's it. We did it. It works. Thanks for tagging along.
Great.
Yeah,
That was
so
very cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot. This Riverside FM's like melting down my computer. Is that happening to you guys as well?
No,
Yeah.
not mine. Mine's doing all right.
Yeah.
Well, my internet's my internet's always a little questionable anyway. So
No, I think it's just what is amazing is that you can like come up with some kind of idea and just type it in, and it'll figure out how to work. I think I mentioned at the session earlier this week. Even I've tried that a couple times. Where it's like I don't even know if this is possible, but I'm going to ask it, can you do this? And it'll give me some clues as to like how to write a better prompt for it, and then figure out how to get stuff running. So yeah, it's incredible. At some point, actually, maybe I'll put some more examples in the Slack channel. But there's a couple of other things I figured out how to do, like a voice visualizer and like one that accesses your camera and saves an image and like stuff like that. It's just
Please put
I
that
don't know if
in
it was
there.
possible, but it's like just tells you how to do it and gives you the code. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Yeah, happy Friday. Yeah, thanks again, and
yes.
see you guys
Thank
next
you.
time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. Do you need me to hang on for anything, or should I? Cool. Yep. Sounds good. See ya.